Hello and welcome to Quarantine Talk, episode number 3. Today we're going to talk about the entertainment industry, especially about films with our guest, Kat and Devon from the UK. This show was recorded the 11th of April 2020. I am Alex. Today I'm going to be the host with Jerry, who's in Taipei, and Devon and Kat, who are in the UK. So we're just going to do a rundown of some global news. And then we're gonna talk about this week's topic, which is entertainment. I'm just gonna start with the first news that came out yesterday night, which is Volcano Krakatoa. I'm sorry for that pronunciation because it's terrible. Erupted last night on April 10th at 11 p.m. approximately. This is allegedly the strongest eruptive phase since the volcano collapsed in 2018, provoking a tsunami that killed around 36,000 people, more or less. Oh no, sorry, that was in 1883. And that was an eruption stronger than the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. And yesterday's eruption made the island collapse and reduced its size to a quarter of its pre-eruption size. Now, Jerry, you want to go ahead with the next news?
The next news is Singapore has suspended the use of Zoom after online lessons was hijacked. The teachers reported obscene images appearing in screens mid-class, known as Zoom bombings. Trolls going into convos doing a reading of children's book led by Ruha Benjamin, a Princeton professor. A chubby white man in a thong popped up. I'm sorry for laughing, but
it is kind of funny.
I think I read somewhere that this whole pandemic has been the best and worst thing to happen to Zoom in like the company's history.
Yeah, because apparently the company opened on 2013, and now it had a bomb, so everyone's using it, which it's great for the app. But then again, no one wants to use it anymore because people are trolling kids on the platform, showing, inappropriate images.
And song,
yeah. Use a password, everybody. You can use a password. That's the way you stop it.
Yeah, the next news is Boris Johnson was released from intensive care this week, which is, I guess, good news for the UK citizens, is it more or less?
Yeah, I guess.
I have a genuine question though. I was surprised to see that the person who would run the UK was going to be the exteriors minister instead of the vice prime minister. I don't know if you have a vice prime minister anyway.
Not really, because in the UK, as far as I'm aware, Kat, you can correct me. We elect parties, not people. So it's kind of the party elects the person they want to be represented and run within that party.
So it's the party who would choose the second online if the prime minister passes away, or okay.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I heard about the deputy role was like sometimes during some like administration they don't even have a role like to replace Boris Johnson if he's ill. Like it's like a deputy prime minister or something. Is that the role it's called?
I don't know, Kat. Do you?
As in, like, is there one? Because like I know it. I don't really. Yeah, I really don't know enough about it to really like weigh in
designated on it. Designated a survivor. There's a shitty Kiefer Sutherland TV show about it. It's like if everybody dies, this is the one who will replace it just in case. But it's just a random nobody. But apparently there's nobody to fill that role now because nobody has been selected to fill that role.
Yeah. Oh, I think the planning is just been, I mean, I don't know how political we want to get, but I think the planning has just been, not good. So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me if there isn't really much of a deputy person,
In further world news, Saudi UAE launched 19 airstrikes on Sana'a, according to the rebel-run Al Marisha TV. it was the first attack in months. No casualty was reported for now. The attacks are alleged response to 2 missiles were intercepted in Raihaides, apologies for pronunciation, Saudi Arabia's capital on Saturday. Yesterday, Yemen confirmed its first case of corona.
It's just gonna be interesting because a lot of people were complaining about, oh, in Syria as well, we just came out of a war, or we are mid-war, and we're just gonna have to put up with coronavirus. So it's just gonna be interesting how they solve the amount of poverty problems plus war and immigration with coronavirus. That's gonna be interesting. On a little bit more heartwarming news, the Italian mafia distributes food and to struggling residents. The mafia has been distributing essential goods for free to the poorest southern regions of Italy, including Campania, Calabria, Sicily, and Puglia. I'm sorry for that pronunciation. My Italian is very bad. Yeah.
It's those times when like even the mafia has the best news out there.
It's such a way to open a sentence. Like, for some heartwarming news, let's move on to some mafia talk. Yeah.
Italian mafia. I remember there was a film called like The Rocketeer, and there's one place where like the Nazis start attacking, and like the mafia starts helping out with the American government. It'd be like, we may be scoundrels, but we are still patriotic or something. And then like we refuse to work with the Nazis. I think that's probably something like that. The corona are the Nazis these days.
That's a way of putting it.
Yeah.
Taking into account the amount of racist attacks that have been going on.
So lastly, for another bad news, but yeah, Bernie Sanders, the Democratic candidate for on the left, dropped out the presidential run after losing in key states of Michigan and Florida. You know, obviously, Bernie Sanders has started like a huge movement in America. You know, he has been called extreme by some right-wing media, but you know there is unquestionably a change he started. You know, people are more aware, young people has been more involved. You know, like even like 3-4 years after he lost to Hillary, he still remains like an important figure in our modern progressive politics. You know, I'm a big supporter of him, but you know, even though I'm not in America, I just think his personality, his policies, you know, that's how he should do it. He is quite a take no BS kind of person. You know, he talks straight. You know, when he gets interviewed, he's not very entertainment person. You know, he can be entertaining, but not in a way that you would imagine. He's not Donald Trump. He's not, you know, very celebrity-ish. Yeah. So that's not very good news, but I'm glad that at least, you know, he has changed a lot of people's minds. You know,
Sorry, I was kind of surprised that he lost on Florida, because Florida is a state with a very big majority of Latinos and Cuban immigrants, which is kind of his demographic as well, because he has a party that, well, not a party, but his section is mainly comprised of immigrants and minorities. Like his team, it's basically trying to fight against discrimination to ethnic minorities or religious minorities or just whatever minorities you can find. So I was just surprised that Florida voted for Biden, who has done absolutely nothing for that state. I was just surprised, but that's just my personal takeaway. Like,
it may have something to do with, you know, the current coronavirus epidemic, because you know people are getting confused messages. Should they go out to vote? Shouldn't they? And I think for a lot of minorities, and you know, voting is probably the least of their concerns right now. You know, most of the concerns are probably going to be staying safe. You know, even though a lot of people, I think I heard the news about there has been a very low turnouts for young voters, and a big base of Bernie Sanders votes came from young people. But if they're not turning out to vote, then that's not gonna do much, realistically. So I'm hoping that's it, like because of the epidemic, because people has been arguing, is it ethical to ask people to vote during these times? If there is a risk of going out to vote, should you still do it? I think both campaign has been struggling with that.
Well, France made had an election, state election, on within the week that they got coronavirus outbreak, which a lot of people criticized as well, but they did it anyway because apparently it was an essential activity.
You'll be interesting to see in the November election how that will turn out. If this is still happening.
So moving on to the entertainment side of the podcast, I brought a little bit of math into the equation. No pun intended. Basically, in the US box office between March 13 and 15, it was reported at $54.7 million. And for a comparison of what that means, after the 9/11, the box office was $54.5 million, which is around 46% decline from last month and a 60% decline from a year ago. This is bad for the entertainment economy. Just the industry of entertainment reached 101 billion last year in comparison to 2018. That was a growth of an 8%. It's been doing good. The entertainment industry has been on the rise, and suddenly, with the whole outbreak. Anyway, the global theatrical box in 2019 reached $42.2 billion, which was again 3% growth from 2018. And the Hollywood Reporter estimated a $20 billion loss globally for the industry. So I just want to ask you guys, what do you think will be the effects of consumption of entertainment, and how do you think this will affect cinemas, films, or just YouTube, for example, which is another platform of entertainment? We're just talking about it.
I mean, it's gonna, in decades to come, there'll be a little star next to the box office information and release dates for hundreds upon hundreds of films, because it is something that the kind of current movie-going climate has never seen. They've never seen kind of such a global stopping of box office and of cinemas. And this won't be just this year. This will be because this year will be when it's like affecting the box office directly. But also next year and the year after, we'll have a sudden thing of movies which have had their production schedules stopped and they haven't been able to fully complete their production, or they've had messy productions because of that, and that's have to be pushed too. And also the fact that a lot of people don't go to the cinema that often anyway, and this may just decrease the kind of the prevalence of cinema in the public mindset even further than it has been over the past couple of decades anyway. It's going to be interesting to see the impacts, but it's not great. It's not great.
Like, do you guys think that, for example, just last year, Avengers Endgame has able to, break the world box office, proving that Marvel can still draw a crowd? Hopefully after this epidemic, do you think they could still have the draw to, get the audience back in theater seats? Regardless of their qualities, they do have the draw on people. Do you think they could still do that?
My point's tangential, so someone else go first.
I mean, I think it could easily go both ways. I think it's more likely to go the way of like people will want to see Marvel at the cinema in the same way that they used to, kind of thing. I think a lot of people are missing cinemas and things like that as much as, but I do agree with Devon that like a lot of cinemas probably won't be able to recover from this, and a lot of small or like more independent, less mainstream like companies and things like that aren't just cinemas, but the people releasing movies to cinemas that are smaller and things like that may also not be able to recover. So, but things like the giants of the industry, like Marvel and things like that, I think it's much less of a worry. And I think cinemas will still exist. I think it's just a bit of a frightening time in terms of things like, well, we'll probably talk about it, won't we? But Tyneside in Newcastle and things like that.
Well, Cineworld, which is one of the biggest companies in the US, apparently, I didn't know that. This was 1 month ago, so it probably changed, but they say that there wasn't any reduction on their sales, and the official statement said, thus far, we have not observed any material impact on our movie theater admissions due to COVID-19. We continue to see good levels of admissions in all our territories, which is quite funny, but again, going back to what you just said, Kat, this is a franchise. This is a big name within the industry. So it's kind of interesting to see how that's going to compare to little cinemas and independent ones like Tyneside. Devon, you are doing something to help Tyneside as well, right?
Yeah. Well, just off that point very quickly, the AMC, which is a big theatre chain in the US, just filed for bankruptcy 2 days ago. Yeah. So it is affecting big ones. But yeah, Tyneside have been asking for donations because they don't know whether they're going to be able to reopen. They don't know when, and they don't know what financial position they'll be in. So they're asking for donations. And the Film Society are actually going to run a raising money for Tyneside campaign. I think we're launching the campaign tomorrow at about midday. And we're going to be offering incentives, raffles, prizes, events, over various stretch goals to kind of encourage people to donate, because we don't want to see Tyneside close. It's close to all our hearts, and we want to keep going there for many years to come. So definitely keep a lookout for that and donate what you can.
Yeah, obviously, I think for every cinephile, it's independent cinema is a place where we go to, because a lot of art house film won't be played in places like Cineworld. And I think it'll be a huge loss, for a lot of areas, even like in central London. For instance, one of my favorite theaters is Prince Charles Cinema, and it's completely independently run. It's the only independent cinema in central London. There's a lot of cinemas out there. There's a lot of art house cinema, obviously, but there's only a few. I think Devon just turned into.
What happened? Sorry.
You're like Hugh Jackman in the fountain someday.
I'll be an angel from now on. It's fine. There we go.
Bring it back.
Less, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just saw that and I couldn't stop
laughing. Well, will be quite interesting in terms of not so much independent cinema, but independent film is, the kind of pandemic lockdowns and restrictions. They're not going to all go away overnight. It's going to be a gradual rise, and there may be a point where they're not allowing gatherings of over, say, 100 people for a month. And what will happen to big productions and what will happen to small productions? It may be that suddenly for a few months, indie films are sort of being made because no other film can be. Because, the kind of big 400 people production sets of Marvels and Star Wars is just can't be done. And it is kind of those small independent films, probably Netflix, ones which are being made simply because they have the kind of the fast track timescales and the small crews that can do it.
When do you think people are gonna come back to cinemas?
I've read a lot of online kind of polls and articles and stuff, and it seems to be that even when they reopen, it will still be between 2 to 8 weeks before the general public feel comfortable going back. And I doubt that major films will be released before cinemas are sort of up to capacity, because why would you release James Bond in a cinema if only 75% of your audience is going to turn up? So
you were saying on the Film Stock show that we did the other day that that studios might almost give like almost a sacrificial film as a thing.
And I've on my little notes, I think New Mutants will probably be Disney's sacrifice, because through various things that they're not allowed to put it straight to VOD because of their Fox deal, and even if they do, HBO owns TV rights until 2022. It's this very weird, convoluted thing, which means they just can't put it on Disney Plus until 2022. So I think that will be their sacrificial lamb. I think it will be let's throw this in cinemas and we can say that we've released it. And we just don't have to worry about it anymore. And if people turn up, yay. But I don't know about other studios.
The weird thing I'm seeing right now, because like in UK obviously it's in lockdown, same in Spain, but in Taiwan we are sort of in like a weird transition period where everything is sort of still running. Like a lot of things has been closed, but it's not, asked by the government to close. And when I turn on TV, there's still commercials for films, but not big films. For films like, for example, the Dave Bautista babysitter comedy.
My Spy.
Yeah, My Spy. It's apparently playing in the cinemas right now. And there's like a film where Holly Hunter plays a mom. It's like typical horror film. There's a haunted house, and there's a young kid or something. And I saw like the trailer of it when I was like going grocery shopping another day. It was on TV or something. I was like, that's a weird film to be. I never see this trailer before. And I think because like normally during this time, like by our normal timeline, James Bond will be playing in the cinemas right now, and now in countries that still hasn't been closed fully, we are playing these sort of secondary. Normally, nobody would watch films of VOD in the cinema because big blockbusters are out basically. I think so. I wonder, would that be the same when the cinemas eventually open?
Well, I was wondering if they'd start bringing back old films. I was wondering, has any of your local cinemas been showing any kind of old classics, or is it all just new stuff?
I think that was China's plan before they shut it down again. Like there was news about them showing Dark Knight or like Marvel films on IMAX.
They were going to re-release Avatar, and everyone was like, Avatar is going to become the best grossing film in the world again, and then it all closed down. It's like, nah. Actually, going back 17 tangents, but I wanted to mention this. I saw a really interesting Reddit thread about how James Cameron, he is like one of the only directors with a financial advisor as like somebody who he employs throughout like on an ongoing basis. And his financial advisor is the same person who is financially advising the royal family in Dubai, I think it was. And someone was like, well, this is a bit strange. They actually looked into it. And James Cameron films, at least Titanic and Avatar, both released just after a recession when the economy was starting to go up, which is why they made so much money. And of course, Avatar 2 is slated for the end of 2021, just after the economy is going to crash and it will start rising again. And maybe the reason why Avatar 2 has been pushed for about 8 years might not be that it wasn't finished. Very Reddit conspiracy, but I found it quite funny.
That's brilliant though, because that's wait, I'm trying to process this information, because of course if the money in the entertainment industry is going down, and then suddenly Avatar comes out, it's the biggest grossing film, gains a lot of money. Wow.
and it really was. Avatar 1 was in development for 12 years, and it came out just after the end of the 2008 financial crisis.
It's brilliant.
You can't beat the jam cam.
like JC is like the most 4-quadrant person you can ever imagine. Like Marvel Studios, it took them how many films? Is it 12 films? 24
Something
films?
like that.
Yeah.
To reach James Cameron level. But like James Cameron is a person, but Marvel Studios is like a big studio.
Also, 12 films built on a foundation of 60 years of comics instead of James Cameron going like, what if there was a planet and they were blue?
And it was in 3D.
Is it based on the Smurfs? Because that's basically the Smurfs.
Was it? It was a subliminal Smurf film the whole time. That's why. Forget the financial crisis. We've found the key to James Cameron.
I hate that so much.
I mean, to be fair, like, if everything's done and then Avatar 2 comes out, would you watch it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
break my Disney ban for Avatar 2. As I made, like, after Endgame, I was like, I won't see any other Disney film until Avatar 2 comes out.
Avatar
Mhm.
is Disney?
It is now, because they brought Fox.
Yeah.
Technically, James Cameron, the man, the myth, the legend, owns the IP to Avatar. So he can do anything he wants with that IP. But
Mhm.
in terms of, like, production and distribution, it's Disney now.
I think like the rights just goes, but even before the Disney buyout, like they were building Avatar Land in Disney. I think like James Cameron was striking a deal already, like because like I think his films are all like family friendly and are all big epic films. You know, there's a reason he was a big draw to cinemas, I guess. So who knows? Maybe 2021, James Cameron will defeat all the Marvel films and reclaim the top spot again. That'll be the biggest shock of all, I think.
Well, I feel like he will do anyway with the first Avatar, because they're going to re-release it before Avatar 2, because why wouldn't they? Disney like money. And it hasn't really been released in China, I don't think, before. No, it was, but it had a very small release. So I think it will make enough money to overtake Endgame post everything. Yeah.
So about the movies that have been delayed and postponed or cancelled, or I have a little list here that I'm gonna read out, and you can tell us the one you're most upset or most excited about, because I have one in my list that I just hope they cancel. I've said this before.
Oh, I can't wait.
So the first one is Fast 9, Black Widow. Riverdale, the show has been suspended. A Quiet Place 2, James Bond, which is expected to cost MGM around $30 million, and Mission Impossible, I think. There was another one that I thought about. Mulan, I think has been also moved.
I've got a full big list here.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, there were more, but these are just the ones which. Okay, First Cow, A Quiet Place 2, Bull, Mulan, The Lovebirds, The New Mutants, No Time to Die, Antlers, My Spy, Promising Young Woman, Antebellum, Run, Black Widow, The Woman in the Window, Scoob, with an exclamation mark, Spiral from the Book of Saw, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, F9, Artemis Fowl, The Artist's Wife, Wonder Woman 1984, Candyman, Greyhounds, Top Gun, Maverick, In the Heights, I can't believe you didn't say that, Free Guy, Minions, The Rise of Gru, Ghostbusters Afterlife, The French Dispatch, Jungle Cruise, Morbius, Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway, Malignant, Nobody, The Eternals, Shang-Chi, Uncharted 2, Doctor Strange, Indiana Jones 5, and For Love and Thunder.
There were movies that I didn't know were being made, and I'm so happy. Even if they're moved, I'm so happy that they're just doing a Roger Rabbit too. I am very
Peter Rabbit, sorry.
Peter Rabbit.
Yeah.
Then I don't mind that. Kat, you want to go ahead with which one you're most sad about?
There's a lot more than I thought. Yeah, I think First Cow is a big one for like people who obviously are like A24 fans and things like that. Obviously, that's a big one, I think, but that's more because I like the like production company rather than specifically being interested in that. I just like very recently got into them. One that you guys didn't mention, I don't think, it's that I'm really excited for is Baz Luhrmann's Untitled Elvis Presley biopic.
Oh, of course, with Tom Hanks.
Yeah. But that would be one that I'm really excited for, just because I think Baz Luhrmann is just amazing. But that's one, and like it's not exactly a guilty pleasure film because I just really like it, but I was excited for A Quiet Place too because I personally do quite like the first Quiet Place. But yeah, those would probably be my main ones. Yeah.
I just hate The Quiet Place too. And
I know you do. We've had this debate before. I mean, we haven't fully gotten into like why it is you don't like it, but I don't.
I don't like it because I don't think it has good interpretations. I think the way that they present the monster within the 31st seconds of the movie doesn't work. The way they do it, it can work in other movies, but it doesn't work for The Quiet Place. The only good thing that they have is, and I think it was Peter from the Film Talk as well who said it, it's that they have representation of how do you say this in English? People who can talk. Like,
Deaf?
no, deaf is you cannot hear, right?
Mute.
Mute.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I think on No Quiet Place, there's a film made by Todd Haynes, my God and Savior, who made Carol. She made a film called Wonderstruck, starring the same actress in The Quiet Place, the
Yeah.
mute actress, a young actress. She was also in Wonderstruck, which is also a film about a mute kid trying to struggle through his life. Like he has been abandoned by his parents. It's kind of like a Home Alone situation, but not lighthearted Home Alone, but like a drama thing. And it was really good. It's also about cinema. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see, all these films being pushed back. I think I'll be selective. Like after hearing all the lists, like Devon just read out and Alex just read out, I was like, I'm sure I'm gonna see all of them. Like for example, like probably not gonna see. Like I wasn't going to see the Marvel films anyways, but if I have the money, I'm not going to see like the big blockbuster films. I'm probably gonna pick like French Dispatch. Once it comes out, I'll be like, that'll be my priority. If other films I have time, I may go see it. Like Ghostbusters may and may not. It's not really my thing. I'm fine waiting for these films to come out on VOD or other platforms, or get it on DVD or Blu-ray, I think. Yeah, it's gonna be sad to see all these films being buried. There will be films being buried. Like 007, the box office is gonna be fine. Like they're gonna lose a lot of money, obviously for the pushbacks. But I don't think Marvel films is gonna be losing that much money. Like when the box office reopens, hopefully, but smaller films maybe. Like I heard like Birds of Prey on VOD was like just after 2 weeks they have like a price drop,
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that's a good thing or not. Like, but it's still number one on iTunes. No.
Not good. People have not been even. I say going out in droves. People have not been staying in droves to see that film.
It's sad though.
Yeah.
I don't know. They should have known after.
They should.
Yeah, after the Suicide Squad disaster, they should have known this would have happened with Harley Quinn. I don't know.
Also the name, like it's just a bad name in general.
Say the name. Say the full name, Jerry.
Harley Quinn and the Fabulous Journey or something.
The Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Whoa, that's a long name.
Yeah.
Like, come on, it's a quirky name, but it's never gonna work for a title, right?
No, Birds of Prey is a good name. It's just the annoying add-on at the end.
Yeah.
They had to change the name, in fact, because of how bad it was doing. Because the original name was Birds of Prey, and people were looking up Harley Quinn because that's the only reason people were seeing it. That's certainly the reason I saw it, and they had to add Harley Quinn, so that's why the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn came up.
Slightly off topic from all the Corona stuff, but I read I saw like a comment which was comparing the film to Deadpool, and I think that if they had just done the Deadpool route of doing a Harley Quinn film, setting up Harley Quinn as a like proper character rather than just like a side thing in Suicide Squad, and then the kind of Deadpool 2 team up film could have been Birds of Prey, I think that would have done it. I think that would have made money.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But DC like to rush.
Hmm.
I,
Um,
I, yeah,
you go.
sorry. I think I read something about, because we were discussing about commercial and indie films before. I read something about, like, for a lot of indie films, it's actually, of course, their box office suffered a lot, but like to them it's a lot less than like commercial films, because those films aren't going to be playing in cinemas for a long time anyways, especially like small budget indie films, like. A24 probably, like films like that probably have distributions, but for smaller films they're probably not going to have it anyway. So it, for them, it's actually less of an impact. Like maybe people can stream it, but it's like there's so much stuff on streaming these days, it may get buried, but they're gonna get buried anyways, even before the COVID-19 stuff happened. So like on Netflix, I'm glad a lot of indie films are going to Netflix, but a lot of people will never see them because they're just not in the main page when you click it in.
Hmm.
Like how do you guys come across indie films you want to watch, like on streaming service? Like what's your place do you
Category,
find things? What?
category indie. That's it.
I
Mm.
never search Netflix. I find they just recommend Netflix films, and most
Yeah.
Netflix films aren't the highest level of esteem and quality in cinema.
What pompous of you, Devon.
Straight to DVDs.
Yeah, which is sad because there's so much great stuff on Netflix, but I have to use like a website like Just Watch to find it, because
Hmm.
Netflix just is like, hey, you liked Gone Girl, here is Netflix Original 4. I'm like, well, is it?
Yeah.
About the DVD that you just said, do you think people are gonna start buying DVDs again instead of going to the cinema?
I don't see it changing much. I think people who were going to the cinema are just as likely to digitally rent or buy than DVDs. I think DVDs is a very specific audience nowadays.
Yeah. I think there was like a moment of smugness for me when like Netflix and like internet was super slow, and then and all the physical collectors like, see, all you digital people was laughing at us when we buy all these physical discs. See, like now we have like high definition copies of our film while your Netflix is buffering. But like honestly, that's not going to last. I think like the internet is going to come back eventually. So, but and I don't see that much of it as advantage. It's more of like a personal satisfaction. Like you have those films on your disc, and you're never gonna lose them, no matter what happens, unless your house burned down or something. Like, like
I Oh, I think Netflix went down for about 20 minutes in America about a week and a half ago, and immediately all the people who have DVD collections on Reddit were making memes about it for a solid 20 minutes, and then it went back up, and they just got lost.
okay, boomer got okay, boomer back to their house.
Yeah.
Well, they had to slow down the rendering, like loading time on Netflix, because the platform got so used that it wasn't able to support the user face. I don't know if any of the terms that I'm using make any sense, but they had to go slower, and that
all the kind of baseline resolutions have been downgraded on most major streaming platforms because there is such a greater surge of activity over the moment at the moment.
Devon, which movie are you most sad about getting delayed?
Okay. As usual, it's complicated. Tenet and Dune haven't been officially delayed, but at least one of them absolutely will. Tenet is currently on for July 17th, and everything else in July has run away. Jungle Cruise, Morbius, French Dispatch, Ghostbusters, like they're all gone. They're gone into August. Like even August films have run away. So I think So once Christopher Nolan has like mopped up his tears from all cinemas closing and Netflix actually winning this round, he'll move it. But until then, it's staying in July.
Yep.
Also, June is an interesting beast because like this December was an interesting. I used interesting a lot. This December has been the only December in the past number of years and will be in the next number of years where there won't be a Star Wars or an Avatar film released. So it was like the one which was open for another sci-fi epic, and June was like, finally, I can be Star Wars for adults. This is going to be great. And then every film moved to December, which June's just going to get crushed. And more so in that June is like a very pretty film. It was shot on big cinema cameras and it was made for IMAX screens. And there's only a certain number of IMAX screens around the world, and so IMAX films usually space out their releases, so that they don't kind of, because if you are too near another IMAX release which might be more popular than yours, you will just not have any IMAX screenings. And IMAX screenings make so much money. June is currently set for December 18th. Top Gun Maverick has moved to December the 26th. So it's just going to take away all of June's IMAX screenings a week into its run. So I think that will possibly move too. And of course, Tenet, if Tenet moves to December, that's another IMAX film in the mix. One of those is going to move. But if you want my proper answer of what's actually been officially moved, probably No Time to Die, because there's been 1.5 good Bond films, but they were a really good 1.5 good Bond films, and I want another one.
Final from Daniel Craig. Oh my god. I think everybody nowadays is just endlessly watching Casino Royale and then imagining they're watching No Time to Die.
Yeah. Like watching Casino Royale and then going through the rest, and then when they get to Spectre, they just start again on Casino Royale.
It's a Groundhog Day on the Craig film.
They get for like after the like really long pretty shot at the start of Spectre, and they're like, wait a second, no, I'm watching, and then they restart.
I'm surprised you didn't say Batman.
Oh, well, again, that hasn't been officially moved. But that another interesting point with the Batman that Peter Lennon of the Film Stock radio show fame brought up. You two were there at the time, but for Jerry, Batman, of course, it got shut down 25% into its production. Not much has been shot, and now everyone has like gone home and staying home. Especially since it was being filmed in the UK, kind of in Glasgow and Liverpool and Edinburgh, I think they did a bit. So they were like going around the UK, and the UK is currently not for going around. But the Suicide Squad, which is James Gunn's thing, fully wrapped production before this and is currently being edited in his living room. So production's going pretty well for that, really, considering. Suicide Squad is currently set for an August the 6th release date. The Batman is currently set for June 25th. They could easily switch, and the Batman may be able to hold its ground, but it's shaky ground. Yeah. And Matt Reeves had a very nice quote, which was like, people were saying, are you going to try and kind of, now you've got stuff in the editing room, are you going to have a look at it and see and kind of make iterations and stuff? And he was like, no, I've been working on this script for 2 years and it is exactly where I want it, and I'm not going to move a scene, I'm not going to move a single beat. And I was like, I don't know.
That's a creative vision right there for you.
Yeah,
He's gonna stand his ground.
It's gonna be a weird one, and I like that.
I think for me it's probably gonna be Dune, because my heart was broken when Blade Runner 2049 did very little box office. I saw it in opening night, and everybody was sort of confused walking out, and I kept like campaigning for that film, like, everybody go watch Blade Runner 2049, but everyone was like, it's so long, and also I'm not sure about Blade Runner. It's kind of a weird thing, but I'm not sure I like it.
Let's agree to disagree that, you know.
But As a,
I'm just a better rate, yeah.
as a cinephile, even if I didn't completely love 2049, what saddened me the most about this will be the sacrifice of the cinema experience. Because say what you will about Nolan films, which is I'm not very kind to Nolan as well, because I think his filmmaking ways are just not for me. I respect him as a cinephile, but going to watch a Nolan film in IMAX is just a completely unique experience. When I watched Dunkirk and Interstellar on IMAX screen, it shocks you. Like I didn't love Dunkirk, but when I watch it on IMAX and the whole frame just opens up and you see the wide shot going in, it's just like oof. It's just like that's cinema right there, and like knowing there is a possibility that we may not get it, after all this delay, it breaks my heart because I think that that's very important part of our, Nolan, for all his flaws, are the things that hold like draw the audience based on his, like, just purely on his name. These days it's all about big IPs, about Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Disney, or whatever. But Nolan films is like you want to watch Nolan film just purely on his name, and like Dune is probably more for us who are like hardcore cinephiles who are just want to support anything Denis Villeneuve does after Arrival 2049, because he's one of the few filmmakers that are just making genuinely unique stuff. Like even when his box office doesn't turn up, doesn't support that. I don't. I'm holding up hope. We're all holding a candle for Dune, but big chances that it's not gonna get a sequel. I'm even surprised if it got made. Like he was even.
I was under the assumption that they were like making two, maybe not Lord of the Rings style, but I think there was always the plan was always two, which was a very ambitious plan in my opinion. I don't know if
had sequel plans as well, right?
Does it? Oh, I hope not.
Yeah, because part of the reason I didn't like 2049 as well is because there was sequel bait in there. Like there was setting up of the next film, and I didn't like that. I hate like universe setting kind of thing.
But no, it wasn't. There was, it was setting up things, but it was about the setup. Another film wouldn't work because it would just be in that. But this is a whole
no spoilers. No
spoilers, no spoilers. But I wouldn't worry about. Tenet will get a cinematic release, even if it's like Christopher Nolan pulls up into your neighborhood with a trailer and like gets out a projector, and he'll find a way.
What's the thing I would love? Like I think during like 2 years ago, during like Hateful Eight, Tarantino's Hateful Eight, he did a road show where that's literally what he did. Like he will bring an old camera to different cities, and it'll play for like 2 days or like at different places. It's like an old theater experience, and you even get those like booklets, like kind of thing. I would love if like Nolan did that. And it's just a road show of Tenet, like just 35mm screen, like just like running to like all the cities. It would be lovely, because that's just a thing that you don't get these days. They even have intermissions during my Hateful Eight like screening. It's like slightly extension of it, I think, like the version we got, and it was beautiful. Like it was just something so unique. I think maybe they could use that to their advantage. Use film to sort of campaign for their film to sort of like get people's interest into that. Because I remember like last year when the film, the daddy issue film that you didn't love, Devon, Ad Astra, Dad Astra.
Oh.
I remember when it was released, and then I was like, oh, I gotta go see the super screen. And then I think just day after I thought of that, I think another big film replaced like the super screen, like immediately got pushed over. I was like, that's the one film I want to watch it on super screen. Like that's beautiful cinematography, regardless of the quality of the film. It's beautifully shot, and you want to see it in big screen. But that film got pushed over so quickly, nobody even remembered it existed. Like, I think that would probably happen to Dune. Hopefully won't, but like, I think, is there a possibility Dune will be the sacrilegious lamp, like Warner Brothers throw out?
I think they're really confident. And I think they sort of have reason to be that people will turn up just because it's got Timothy Chalamet, and I can never remember like the pronunciation, but the Spider Woman, Zendaya, Greatest Showman,
Zendaya.
Zendaya.
Yeah.
It's got those two who are like the current crushes of the entire internet. Tom Holland's also in like a crush too, but he's sort of at the side. It's mainly Timothy Chalamet and her, and it's got them both. So I could see people turning up just for them alone, really.
Harry Styles in Dunkirk. A lot of like Harry Styles fans went to watch Dunkirk and then realized it's not a Harry Styles film they expected.
First of all, I didn't recognize him.
No,
I learned he was in Dunkirk way after watching Dunkirk.
Always make me laugh that actors or celebrities star in films that they normally wouldn't, and then it just completely surprised the fans. I remember like Hateful Eight has like Channing Tatum in it, I think. But and I remember people went to see it, and then no spoilers, but it ain't the normal Channing Tatum you see in his stripper films and action films.
Interstellar is another one like that. Like you go in and you get about an hour and a half into the film, and a world Matt Damon appears, and you're like, oh, yes, okay. Have you ever seen one of those like slow bicycle races where it's people who are trying to be the last to reach the finish line on a bicycle, and they're like trying to ride really slowly while keeping balance? Okay, well, this metaphor won't work at all, but I think Uncharted and Indiana Jones 5 are doing that race. They're desperately, like, not wanting. They've both been in production for, like, 6 years, and it's just been delay after delay after delay. I mean, they've both been pushed because of this, but before that, Uncharted was on its 10th director, and Indiana Jones was about to shoot in, like, 3 weeks with only Harrison Ford attached. No one else was attached to the film. It's just been I don't know which is going to release first, but I'm excited to see how many decades into the future it will be before one does.
Maybe they're waiting for the same Avatar strategy. So like wait for everything to crash down and then release the whole movie.
Maybe all these films will be released before what's it New Mutants released.
Maybe.
Oh my god! But for Indiana Jones and Uncharted, I love Harrison Ford. I love Indiana Jones. I like the Uncharted games, but both films are so unattractive to me. Like the Uncharted films have Mark Wahlberg playing the mentor character, which is like, no, I don't want to see that. I literally don't want to see Mark Wahlberg as the uncle who's going to mentor Tom Holland and be like, oh, I'm silly.
It doesn't work at all, does it?
Exactly. Like, he's not even that old. And for like Harrison Ford and Indiana, he's gonna be in his 80s. I respect Harrison Ford's energy of trying to keep acting, but he's gonna be in 80s. And if this film keeps getting delayed, when he shoots it, it's gonna be in his 81 years old or 82-year-old, and I don't want to see that. I don't want to see.
Maybe they're going to shoot it this summer, and Harrison Ford is going to do a Zoom call into the jungle, and we'll just be like a laptop running through the jungle throughout the film. Yes, of course.
Wow, I didn't know he was that old though.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me either.
He's 77
really
years old.
He doesn't look that old because he's really good at keeping up with the energy. But I kind of want to watch the Indiana Jones starring Shia LaBeouf. Now Shia LaBeouf has gained part of his reputation back.
That's kind of a good shout.
Maybe like Shia LaBeouf, like have you seen the awful film directed by M9, which is a lot of films, I guess. But like
yeah, where'd you start?
Remember the film After Earth?
The Will Smith one.
Jaden Smith film. And the film is just Will Smith stuck in like a space shuttle for like half of the film, but like calling his son. I'm thinking the next Indiana Jones will be like that. It's just Shia LaBeouf adventuring in the jungle and Zoom calling Harrison Ford like that. I'm trapped in this trap. What should I do?
And then having a chubby white man coming in with a thong.
Yes. Yeah.
Guys, I've got a pitch for Indiana Jones 5. It's from the director of Searching, and it's Indiana Jones like going into the archives of Reddit and doing archaeology there.
Oh my god.
Great.
And Shia LaBeouf will just Zoom call once in a while, like, Dad, what are you doing? You started an internet war. You know, you canceled, said something offensive online, and now everybody's after your ass. Dad,
Okay, boomer.
okay, boomer.
And before he does any action, he has to Google, like, he puts the action into Google. He's like, Zoom my son. And Google's like, I guess download Zoom.
Oh my god.
Like, I call my son and this happens.
Oh, this conversation belongs in a museum.
This meme belongs in a museum.
Except on the Wayback Machine.
I remember maybe part of the plot line will be like someone revealing the scandal, like the culturally inappropriate things he did on his adventure. Like he gets canceled online. Like he stole like a national treasure from a country and like take it to US and like people cancel like this colonial like bastard.
Just angry BuzzFeed articles.
A list to go about the 10 things, the 10 worst thing Indiana Jones has done. Number 1, sharing a girlfriend with his dad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Number 50.
I just realized there's so we talked about canceled films. I have a list of canceled TV shows as well. Not canceled, but delayed. Production getting delayed. So there's a lot of weird ones. Some you wouldn't even know existed. Remakes and all that, reboot and all that. So The Witcher 2, The Witcher season 2 is getting delayed. The Handmaid's Tale, Succession, Barry, Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
So it has begun shooting actually in New Zealand and has suspended production for 2 weeks, according to New Zealand Herald, which broke the news. Cast and crew were told there were no clear answers. We will resume production. I think that had a change of cast as well. Like
I was gonna say, I didn't know they'd even announced the cast for that.
I think what was his name? The guy who looked like Matt Damon was in.
Oh, the one from no, it's not the. Oh no, I'm thinking of the one who looks like Christian Bale.
There's one guy who looks like Matt Damon who was in The Irishman and was in that one episode of what the hell's it called? Black Mirror.
Oh yeah, he's also in Fargo, the TV show.
Nah.
I always call him Matt Damon because he was in Breaking Bad, and he looks at Matt Damon. I forgot what, but he's a good actor actually. Like he was really good in Irishman as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and other shows that has been delayed are the untitled Goonies pilot.
The Goonies, as in the from the movie The Goonies.
Yes. So
that
it
makes
says
sense.
on the description, says Fox's Meta Goonies project, in which a school teacher returns to her depressed hometown, agrees to help 3 students who are pursuing their filmmaking dreams by putting on an impossibly ambitious shot-for-shot remake of one of the students' favorite films, The Goonies, has shut production.
I was so excited.
Excellent.
And
Yes, I want to watch it.
I was
So
thinking, like, did you guys read The Five when you were kids? The books. There was
Yeah,
the
Famous
books. I was expecting something like that. It's like a group of 4 kids plus their dog who just solve mysteries.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Famous Five, yeah.
When you see a show about, like, with the Goonies, I was expecting something like that, not a depressed teacher helping.
that sounds excellent though.
It sort of sounds like, and I've never seen any of the High School Musical films, but Disney Plus have a show on it of like High School Musical, the musical.
Yeah, it's not good.
Oh, okay. I just read about it and I thought the premise was brilliant. It
It's
was sort of like that, but okay, not good.
it's
Avoid.
very cringy. Maybe it's just me, but I find that I love High School Musical, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch the show. It's cringy AF. It's very, very cringy. It's ooh. By the way, I have the cast of the Lord of the Rings. If you want me to read it out and try to figure out, it's Robert Aramayo, Owain Arthur, Nathaniel Boniadi, Tom Butch, Morphy Clark, Ismael Cruz Cordova, Emma Horvath, Markella Kavanagh, Joseph Moll, and plenty more. But
I don't recognize a single
I
one of those.
I said this on the show. There's like nobody's heard of any of these names, and the argument people came at was like, well, barely anybody had heard of most of the names of Game of Thrones, so how can you say that? But they at least had some people that people had heard of in the first season.
Yeah.
I mean, even the original Lord of the Rings. Obviously, they had like Ian McKellen and Kate Blanchett and some big names, but the Fellowship were pretty unknown.
It had Orlando Bloom as well. I think that was the main reason why a lot of people went to watch it.
Oh,
because I think it also was around the time they released the first Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that. It was kind of like at the same time.
Lord of the Rings was first, I think.
But maybe like a few years first, and then like they promoted each other.
Yeah.
Like people who watched Lord of the Rings went to watch Pirates of the Caribbean, and then kids who watched Pirates of the Caribbean got into Lord of the Rings.
Fellowship was 2001, Black Pearl was 2003, so Lord of the Rings was first.
Yeah.
But very similar, yeah, like you said.
Like, is there any good examples of existing film franchise that has made TV show or reboot of TV shows that had worked?
Watchmen?
Watchmen, yeah.
Lilo and Stitch.
Which one?
Lilo and Stitch. They had a show and it worked perfectly.
It was quite a good show, honestly, yeah.
And they wrapped it up with the last movie. So there's 3 movies of Lilo and Stitch and then a show in between.
I've heard Hannah was quite good.
Hannah
show.
Yes, I started watching that and then for some reason I couldn't get into it, but I think that was just because of bad timing, but it seemed good.
Hannah is in a movie?
Yeah. It was Saoirse Ronan's, like, one of her big breaks.
With a great Kate Blanchett weird accent. I love it. There's European.
She's queen at that. Isn't it Kate Blanchett who does the woman in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Yes, he's a real lady.
Yeah.
Oh. not his best moment. Not her best moment.
No.
Oh yeah, like but like the example of any like. Because I feel like when people watch the Lord of the Rings TV show in the future, they're going to be expecting Ian McKellen or like Elijah Wood or something like that.
Well, it's technically set up before the Lord of the Rings. It's sort of a prequel, but I think they're engineering it so that they will be able to catch up and then redo Lord of the Rings if it's popular and if that seems to be what people want. I think that the problem isn't so much that it's based off a film. I think the problem is that it's a prequel. I think prequels will forever have the struggle of half their audience will know what happens in the future and half won't, and how do you design a story around that?
I've just thought of a really good example of that is the Dark Crystal.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean, I won't spoil the Dark Crystal, but like having a prequel just it like works to a degree, but there's so many aspects of it that it's like you already know what's going to happen though. There's no sense of danger. Well, there is a sense of danger, but it's kind of like you won't know what's going to happen. So like I can't get invested in it truly because I just know what's going to happen.
I think it depends on how you plan the prequels because and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think Star Wars did a semi-good job. I think we all knew at this point that Darth Vader is Luke's father. But apart from that, the prequels have their own storyline. Whether it's told horribly or not, that's another thing. But it does have its own plotline and its own issues and problems and drama and things to solve. So even if you know what's gonna happen next, you're still invested in it in a way.
I'm gonna disagree sort of in that I still think that the Star Wars prequels have a great story, horrifically told, but I think that entire story is sort of based around you having seen the originals. Having the tension of the prequels is set up around the like you knowing what's going to happen, and also a lot of the deconstruction in that the Star Wars prequels are a deconstruction of the originals, and they critique a lot of the practices and stuff of the originals. And if you haven't seen the originals, then a lot of it just seems like, weirdly, why are they talking about this particular thing? And it's because, like the Jedi are a deconstruction of the idea of the Jedi in the originals. But if you haven't seen the originals, then they're just presented as the good guys, but they're not very good. But there's no resolution to that.
And like same thing with like like a lot of people forgot like the word Clone Wars was first mentioned in New Hope, and if you never watched New Hope, then when you watch Clone Wars, it's just something that happened. It's just a bunch of clones, like it means nothing to you. But when you watch it when it first came out or something like that, it'd be like, oh, what's Clone Wars? And they never explained it. It's just part of the universe, and they now demystify it, and that's part of the discussion. I think, like, how much should you demystify it? If you demystify it too much, does that take away the story, the mystery of the universe? Make it less special, like Harry Potter is currently doing right now as well. Like it's going back to rewrite stuff.
I disagree. I don't think it's comparable. I don't think it's comparable because it's not the same line. I think it would be comparable if they would do a TV show or a saga of the Marauders, but with the Fantastic Beasts, they're almost outside the Harry Potter universe because Hogwarts is barely mentioned in it.
But I think that's actually the goal, like what Alex you're describing, that if something can hold up on their own, then it's probably more worth the watch. If you don't need to watch all these original trilogy and you can still watch the prequels as their own stuff, then maybe it works better.
I don't think they're prequels. That's the thing. I don't consider Fantastic Beasts a prequel to Harry Potter because they're not. I would consider a prequel the Marauders, for example, as a show or a saga. But Newt Scamander has absolutely nothing to do with Harry Potter, even if Dumbledore magically appears in the last one.
I disagree again, because I think the whole point of Fantastic Beasts, spoiler, but the spoiler doesn't matter in the entire series, so is that it's revealed that that means nothing if you haven't seen Harry Potter, because up until that point in the world of Fantastic Beasts, Dumbledore is just some guy who showed up once and then told Newt to go to Paris.
J.J. Abrams' Star Trek sequel, like, Into Darkness, it's technically it's not related to the original Star Trek. It says it's on a different universe, it's on the parallel universe. But when the character played by Benedict Cumberbatch, spoiler alert, but it's that means nothing to newcomers. That means nothing to audiences. Could be like, I am Khan, and to the characters in the film, even to Kirk, to Spock, that means nothing because they're like, who? All right, I guess. But like to the audience, it means everything. And if you never watched Wrath of Khan or you never heard of Star Trek, the movie means nothing to you, even though it says it's a reboot. All these reboots, sequels, re-sequels, I guess, or prequels, they would say, oh, I want to do something completely on itself. Like the Harry Potter films, like the Fantastic Beasts films, is still riding on the cocktail of the Harry Potter film, despite it trying to do its own thing. Like or else J.K. Rowling wouldn't be rewriting, retconning things all the time, like posting stuff on Twitter. It's all because of the previous Harry Potter films, I guess.
I think a good question though in this vein is like if a prequel is going to be made, is there any point in pretending that the original source material or like the thing that came before it doesn't exist in terms of valuing how good of a prequel it is or how good of a piece of media it is? Or is it like, so would the argument be like, is a prequel only good if it can stand on its own legs without the previous thing that is the thing, not prequel? Or does a prequel have to be like have to have a knowledge of its previous thing and work off of that knowledge and then give something new that is like world building or something extra, in the same way a sequel is supposed to give something more but still sort of help with the original? I think that is actually quite a good question.
The point being made here is it simply being referential, or is it does it recontextualize things, you know? Because for example, with Star Wars, the best example is the prequels. It's recontextualizing things. You know, it's looking things what we know from different lens. You look at all these characters, like all they done in the film are things we know. Like a lot of reveals only mean something if you watch the original trilogy. Because, for example, the big bad of Episode 9 is in the trailers, so it's not that big of a sweat. Emperor Palpatine comes back. But to the characters of Episode 7 and 8, who is this guy? Like, they never meet this person before. It's just some old dude that they heard. It means something to the audience because they watched the previous 6 films. But
assuming they did. Assuming that it isn't somebody who's come to Star Wars at Episode 7 and there's like, why old guy?
My best friend read the synopsis in Wikipedia, and between that and what I told her, she just went to watch the sequels. That was basically her reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like the best way for people to view, like people who never see that, is like, it's actually that what you said. Like, you watch something and you got curious, so you go back to watch the other films. Not that the film forces you. You need to know this about this thing, about that thing. And I want to sort of like wrap this discussion up with like a 2 question, I guess. So, what was the last film you saw in the cinemas before everything closed down? And what would be the first film you go to watch? If sort of the hypothesis is like, if everything is out, everything.
The first thing you're rushing to see.
Yes.
I think Color Outer Space was the last movie I saw in cinemas.
Ooh.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the first movie I'm gonna go watch is In the Heights. Definitely.
What's In the Heights?
Oh boy.
I think we found the end of the podcast. The next 2 hours.
It's just a movie based on one of my favorite musicals. I won't get too much into it because otherwise I won't stop.
I guess the last one that I saw at the cinema was Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Not with you guys though, because it sounds like we all went to see the same things when I said that. But yeah, no. And then the thing I'm probably gonna go and see first, if it was out, probably honestly would be Baz Luhrmann's untitled Elvis Presley movie. Oh, I'm so excited. But apart from that, I think, I don't know, that would be the thing I'm most excited for. I can never get enough of Baz Luhrmann.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Devon? What would be your first film to watch?
Although Dune is probably the film that I think is going to be better, I would go and see Tenet first, just because I've been avoiding certain parts of the internet to avoid any information on that film, and I would like to go back to those parts at some point.
I think for me, I thought for a little bit it was Color Out of Space, but thank God it wasn't. Like, even though I love Nicolas Cage, that would be not be the last film I want to watch in cinemas.
Why?
I watched. It's not a very good film. Come on, it's not even like the best Nicolas Cage. Mandy. If it's Mandy, I'll be like, I'm fine with not watching any films in cinema for the rest of my life. If that's Mandy, like, that's a weird note to end on, but like, at least that'll be a satisfying one. But Color Out of Space was a little bit mixed. But I watched Jodorowsky's Holy Mountain, like a
Okay.
restoration version in Hindsight Cinema, which is like a really trippy one. Like it's actually quite fun. Like get some like friends join you or watch it with together, and then just get some beers or maybe do something else and watch the film. It's really a weird trip. It's like a weird political critique of capitalism, but also like simply a spiritual film where you just follow an old guy and played by Jodorowsky, the director himself. It's like a cult film basically, and it's really weird, and I kind of loved it. That's my last film. It's a very unique experience. It's kind of film you want to watch after midnight, and that's kind of perfect for me. And yeah, and if everything is done, I will probably watch Tenet first because Nolan basically, and yeah, but also I want to plug a film called Bakaru. I mentioned to you guys before the show, but it's a Brazilian film about a bunch of villagers trying to fight off a bunch of mercenaries with high-tech technology. It's a critique on tourism, on capitalism, on technology, on a lot of things, and it's really a fun watch. Like I thought it would be a serious film, but it's not. It's kind of like the dumb film. Not dumb. It's not dumb. It's quite deep, but it has the aesthetics of a dumb Hollywood action film, which is like weird, I guess. But like, thank you everybody for joining us today, and thank you Devon, thank you Kat, thank you Alex, and we'll be signing off. But before we sign off, Alex, what's the email of our show again?
It's quarantk, so QUARANTK @gmail.com, and we also have a Twitter, which is just Quarantine Talk. So yeah, if you want anything, write an article for us or take part on any podcast, just email us or tweet us.
Yeah, we also on our blog. We also constantly post quarantine diaries. People all around the world has submitted so what their experience since the quarantine started. So that's a very interesting read because everybody's experience is very different. And our show normally it's on every Saturday, and we'll try to get it out on Sunday or Monday. But like we will try to do a bit of variety of topics because during our quarantines we're all very bored and kind of nothing else to do. And even though it's called Quarantine Talk, I don't want this show to be all serious. I want this show to be something everyone can accompany everybody and bring us together. Thank you everybody here.